Race man and Dollywood ditch. At last, but few just mistakes. Amazing dominant.
Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming events here at Capitol OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet features great racing now through Florida Derby weekend at the end of March. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Again, I am Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have you on board. As usual, we'll do a little recap of stakes action. There was plenty of it yesterday. Again, New York is on their holiday break. They'll be back at the end of the week after Christmas. But again, there was plenty of stakes action. We previewed some of it yesterday on the show. We had Kevin Kilroy from Fairgrounds. They had a great stakes card. We talked to Mike Welch of Daily Racing Forum down at Gulfstream. They had a nice stakes card. Laurel had John Piasek in, taking a look at the Laurel stakes card. We'll show the race with Post Time, who was trying to go out a winner after having such an incredible record at Laurel snapped in his previous race. He was 10 for 10 and ran second in the Maryland Millions Classic. And on his way to retirement in a stud career, the Connections wanted clearly to go out on a higher note. We'll see how that worked out yesterday at Laurel amongst some stakes they had running there. And also Rattle and Roll was in the Tinsel at Oaklawn. So we'll take a look at some of that stakes action from yesterday and more. Before we do that, let's do a little housekeeping and keep you up to date. As far as promos and events, it's a little bit quiet this weekend going into the holiday week, but we'll kick back into action in a big way at the end of next week. We'll fire back up the bounty bet next Friday. And Aqueduct is back in action, and there is a nice chunk of change up for grabs. You can see there, $2,600 plus up for grabs in the bounty bet. That's next Friday, so keep that in mind. Saturday, there's a big chunk of change available too. Again, a week from yesterday, next Saturday, the King of the Hill contest offers $900. You're lucky I can't play that because 2 weeks ago I went out to the front. $700 was up for grabs, and I just filled out a form. I obviously, I can't officially play, but I filled out a form and tweeted out. I would have won 2 weeks ago when it was 700. It's a fun contest. First couple of races, your horse has to run in the top four, and then a couple of races, top three, top two, and then the last race of the sequence, your horse has to win. It's very doable. Again, I that make it happen a couple of weeks ago, but nobody has done it otherwise, and so we've gotten up to $900. Come on down again this coming Saturday, the 27th. Come on down to the Clubhouse Facebook and fill out your entry form. Take your shot at that $900 prize next Saturday. There'll also be a holiday grab bag down here at the Clubhouse Facebook next Saturday also, so you can get a little extra something, have a little extra fun. Friday, Saturday, some nice dough up for grabs, and again, holiday grab bag coming up on Saturday as well. All of that Clubhouse Racebook, 7-Eleven, Central Avenue in Albany. Well, you can play from anywhere. All right, let's jump. Oh, before I jump in, again, a little more housekeeping. Don't forget, today, Turfway is the rescheduled synthetic championship day, and Turfway normally a nighttime track. We're going to kick off at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So there'll be some high-quality runners. Caitlin of Greatness, I believe, is still in there. Again, this day was originally scheduled last Saturday, but with weather, they moved it to today. Some high-quality runners will be in there. Turfway Synthetic Championship Day. And again, the fifth post will be at 3 o'clock. And don't forget also, on Gulfstream Park, Rainbow Six mandatory. People can jump in at a 20-cent increment. You can put together a decent little ticket, take your shot. That pool will balloon up nicely today down at Gulfstream. We'll be looking at Gulfstream. Um, I know TV Live a little bit later on if you want to go to the website and text the entire card for the one sheet. And you do that, you go to the website, click on handicapping at the top of the page, then click on the handicappers. You can get the one sheet. I have Gulfstream and Oaklawn today. Brian Nadeau is looked at Gulfstream, so if you want some ideas to put together a little Rainbow Six ticket, by all means, jump in. All right, let's jump in ourselves with some stakes action recaps. And we'll go in chronological order, starting with the fifth race yesterday, which was the Janus Turf Sprinters, going 5 on the grass. And I put Coppola on top. I said yesterday I've liked Coppola throughout the career, but Coppola was coming back from a layoff since early August, just missed in a turf sprint at Kentucky Downs. Coppola is the number 5 horse, and you can see he's out there running well. I was feeling pretty good at this point. I said, though, the layoff concern, your Reef Runner was a very good option, having a triple-digit fire 2 back and running 4th in the Breeders' Cup turf sprint, and Reef Runner's number 8 and goes by him, as does the number 9, goes by Coppola late as well at 16-1, and You Wish. Horse I did not have in my mix, but a Joe Rossino trainee that was coming off a nice race, kind of in prep for this, I would assume. Nice little second place finish and followed it up again. As I say, it's 16-1 running well. But Reef Runner gets it done. Coppola fades a little bit off of the layoff. Reef Runner scores with a 95 buyer. How does that match up? As I say, he had the triple digit 2 starts back in the Eddie B. But 95 is a pretty good number for him. The triple digit is a 100, just to hit the triple digit mark. He's bookended by a 91 and a 96. And 95, solid number. Again, came out of a 4th in the Breeders' Cup turf sprint. Interesting, Mike Welch follow-up article in the Daily Racing Form mentioned the trainer David Fox had gelded a little bit earlier this year. Now has been 3 of 5 since the gelding, and was disqualified from getting another one. So certainly the ultimate equipment change made a big difference for Reef Runner getting it done at the second choice. The favorite was Coppola, slightly 7-5 versus 9-5. And yet, so you get $5.60. But again, with the 16-1 shot coming in second, $5 a little value there. Came up with that price underneath. Reef Runner, Tyler Gaffalione on board again for David Phelps. The Janus. Subsequent to that, race number 6 on the card yesterday was the Sugar Swirl. I like Nick Style in here. That one went off as a 7-5 second choice. Mystic Lake, obviously a very good runner throughout the career. 11 wins and 20 starts for Mystic Lake. It's a good 3-year-old filly going back a couple of years, going back a couple of seasons, going back to last year. This year certainly moved into the 4-year-old ranks very nicely. Mystic Lake is the number 6. Nick Style, the number 5. But it's number 3, Puchero, getting a nice ride coming up the rail for Irad Ortiz. When I was in here handicapping yesterday, as I say, Nick Style, my top pick 7-5, Mystic Lake 65. I liked them both, but I said, you know what, this Puchero, maybe the one to offer value. And that one was 7-2 on the morning line, and Jazz was up a little bit below that. It was 3-1, $3.40. It was kind of just below the 7-2 range. And you wound up with $8.80 for that one. But as I say, this coming off the nice win in the latest I'd rather Ortiz not be on board. There were some things to like there. So if you use that one, maybe a little bit of value. 88 buyer, ties a lifetime best for Miss Gutierrez. As I say, clever ride from Irad Ortiz. Diane Morici, trainer and the owner. So nice score for trainer owner there, pulling in the majority of $125,000 purse. And this is a nice runner as well. In the last place we had some horses that had very good records, um, running very well in there, including Brief Runner, who that was the seventh win in the 22nd career start. So pretty much 1 out of 3, 33%, pretty much for that one. This Bucero goes over the 50% mark, and I know I said you can do that. You've got a nice horse. This Bucero now 10 for 19 in the career. It's a nice state victory on the resume there in the Sugar Bureau yesterday. And again, offered a little bit of value perhaps in there. All right, let's move on again a little bit later in the afternoon. In race number 9 on Saturday, it was the Suwannee River. Talked about this one yesterday with Mike Welch, and I said I like Feather Boa. Feather Boa and Aussie Girl were both coming out of the Noble Damsel up at Aqueduct. Aussie Girl had won. Feather Boa had run third. And I have to say, we try to get clever and switch things up, and it doesn't happen. But I just thought Feather Boa, that Noble Damsel for that one was off a long layoff. Had been on the sidelines over a year. And so the third place finish, I thought, may set the Pletcher trainee up for a nice run. Irad Ortiz was on board. A little bit disappointed. We got the price we wanted with Feather Boa at 7-1, but Feather Boa, the number 9, you can see in the back of the pack, just had too much to do. Aussie Girl at 9-2 kind of had trouble on the first turn and was pulled out of it. It will be Creval d'Oro gunning it out here and holding off a nice late run. Creval d'Oro just does get up. There is the number 4 horse on the outside. It was Moving On Up, who was trying to gut it out as the favorite. I had Moving On Up down at the bottom of my mix. I was a little bit surprised that horse went off as the favorite at 9-5 from the 3-1 morning line. But it was a Savvy Joseph trainee. Coming out of a 9th place finish at Kentucky Downs. That was the end of August. So there's a little bit of a layoff there. Nice horse. Again, I had at the bottom of my mix. Aussie Girl and Feather Boa and Noble Damsel were a couple of the real players in the mix. Aussie Girl with the trouble early was out of it. Feather Boa was just a little too far back, I think, and a little too much to do. But that said, Oro was back mid-pack or a little further early in the race and made a nice stretch run under Ruiz. Jose D'Angelo training, and again, a guy doing what happened to Breeders' stuff this year is now, I think, kind of, he's been, we've had him up to Saratoga in the past couple of seasons, and he has certainly been notable the past couple of seasons. With the Breeders' Cup things, I think he really came to the forefront, certainly. Valdioro, interesting. The Welch article, again, tipped my cap to Mick Welch with his follow-up article, but noted some of this. But then I looked up a little more. First, Creval d'Oro comes out of the win, went off at 10-1, was coming out of a 4th place finish in the Golden Cova at Del Mar on Breeders' Cup weekend. Before that, had won an option claimer at Kentucky Downs. But the history is more notable than that. Let me see if I can quickly pull up. I did not write down 90 buyer. So there's your buyer number. And where's that? The high, the lifetime high was in the Golden Cova 91. It was flirting with the lifetime best buyer yesterday. But the story on this one, again, a little bit interesting. Creval d'Oro started the career in the barn of Mark Cassie. His first purchase as a yearling, 2022, Feline for $60,000. So, given that, he'd already done pretty well. But the connections, I guess, decided, well, let's let's move this one on. And so they sold the horse for a basic Tipton digital sale in August of this year. They sold the horse for $220,000. So again, they had a pretty good career already with a $60,000 purchase, put 6 figures in the bank, and then they got 220. So the original connections did okay. Purchased for $220,000 again in August, and subsequently had 2 starts. An optional claimer win at Kentucky Downs, and given their purses, I didn't look it up, but I'm sure that put a nice chunk of money in. And then ran 4th in the Golden Cova, so stakes placing a little extra money. So they came out of the $220,000 auction purchase and put a little money in the bank with a couple of a win and a 4th place in a stake. And then they entered the horse in the Kentucky Horses Racing Age sale in November and got $500K for the horse. So a $220,000 purchase in August, very savvy. They get some money in the bank on the racetrack for 2 races, and then they get $500,000 to boot. And the purchasers there wind up, coming out of that and getting a stakes victory yesterday in $150,000 Swanee River. But again, it was an interesting path for that one. Purchasing originally $60,000, nice career. And they put it in digital sale August 220. The new owners have a couple of nice races and then sell it for $500,000. And the new owners subsequently win a stake. So it was a nice kind of progression there that you don't typically see. Cavallo de Oro, again, getting it done. Jose D'Angelo. Ruiz was on board and paid $22.40 to win in the Swanee River. Also on the card yesterday down at Gulfstream was the Harlan's Holiday. And again, talking about this race with Welch. And we were both kind of scratching our heads. What do you do with Skippy Longstocking? I put Skippy Longstocking on top, and I said it was purely by default because the horse was coming off of a couple of less than stellar efforts. And this is a multi-millionaire. Skippy Longstocking came into yesterday's race with $3.6 million in earnings. But 2 races back, a well-beaten 7th in the Whitney. You can kind of forgive that, given them Sierra Leone and nice runners in there. But followed up in the Charlestown Classic, a race Skippy had won 2 seasons, last year, 2024, in 8 by 39 lengths in there. So, again, coming off of 2 efforts like that, and, on the verge of being a 7-year-old, as he just went in the wrong direction. But you get down to workouts, felt pretty solid. And I thought, when you looked at the rest of the field, Skippy perhaps just outclassed them. So I landed there. Skippy Longstocking said being number 2 horse. Mike Welch thought if he were going another direction, maybe Hold My Bourbon, another sappy runner, the 1 horse. But this is the wrong race. Just hold on, we will beat that for you. Again, Skippy's going to be number 2 horse. Hold My Bourbon did go out and set the early pace. And both Mike and I thought, that might be the case for the other sappy runner. And Hold My Bourbon did go out and set the early tractions as the number 1 horse. But then kind of gets swallowed up. But it turns out to be a great race. The real alternative to Skippy was probably Poster for Owen Hardy. Lightly raced, 4 wins and 6 starts. Poster's the number 5, was coming off a win at Churchill, but on the turf, but had good dirt for him. And then these 2 kind of separate from the field, and they ding-dong it down the stretch. This is a nice run. Again, on the inside, separate. You can't be confident. Poster gives him all he can ask for. A couple of nice performances there. The victory turns out to be by a head. Poster wound up as the 3-2 favorite. Again, I think a lot of people may have had the same questions on Skippy. off the last two. So they let that one get away as the second choice at 2-1. You got $6.80 on Skippy. Poster underneath. I thought, to me, there were two that you had to go through. The betting public gave a little more consideration to Hold My Bourbon. That was also 2-1. The coach choice was Poster. But I thought it was Poster and Skippy. You got $22 on the exact. I thought there was some fair value there with the two logicals. Skippy boosts the earnings to $3.79 million. Looks like he'll try to make his fourth start in the Pegasus on January 24th. Again, he's been in the last three runnings with very mixed results, but he certainly rebounded nicely, given that there was some real question marks coming in of the last couple of starts. 92 buyer. This is a horse that has a lifetime best of 107. So, the buyer doesn't jump off the page, but it improves off the last few performances. I could certainly see them coming out of this and moving on and giving a try to the Pegasus. The money they put up for grabs there. And then finally, the day down at Gulfstream ended up with kind of a pretty good-looking performance. I liked Chasing the Crown in here, and Chasing the Crown, and Mike Welch was kind of with me. A nice win, couple back at Kentucky Downs from the Mike Maker trainee. Coming in with a nice bullet workout, and Chasing the Crown was kind of a little bit lackluster. Was sitting fourth early and wound up fifth. I got the price at 6-1, but it was never really in the mix. I thought Cugino was solid. I had Cugino right underneath, and Wolfie's Dynagos in the third spot. Brian Lynch off to just a sensational start. And Lynch training Wolfie's Dynagos. Wolfie's Dynagos does go off as the 4-5 favorite. The number 2 horse, Wolfie's Dynagos. Cugino here, as you can see in the West Point colors, I thought had the momentum and was going to push that, and then you can see, nope. Wolfie's Dynagos has another little something left, and it holds off the chart margin, winds up to be 3/4 of the length. But it was a nice run by Cugino. It's just Wolfie's Dynagos weren't going to catch him. Why weren't you going to catch him? Because not only did he set a new course record, he set a North American record for a mile and an eighth on the turf. It was a 143.42. Again, new track record, new North American record. And again, thanks to Mike Welch for that note in his follow-up article in the Daily Racing Forum. Running third was Beach Gold. Wolfie's Dynagos again goes off as the favorite. Irad Ortiz on board for Brian Lynch. And again, Brian Lynch just playing very well at this championship. Irad always going up. 100 buyer for Wolfie's Dynagos. He has a lifetime best of 101, so he was right in the mix there. And this was the only triple digit showing up on the page, so the 101 was going back a while. Wolfie's Dynagos came into the race a millionaire, adds the better part of the Fort Lauderdale purse to that. So another, as I say, a nice performance from a solid horse going in, as noted by the fact that the betting public landed there as the favorite. I thought Chasing the Crown was maybe a little bit interesting, as they say, that one's lackluster. But Cugino, who I had right in the Wolfie's Dynagos, they were both perfectly logical. Exacta was just under $15 if you like those two, and get $3.80 for Wolfie's Dynagos. On a nice stakes day, again, down at Gulfstream, a lot of this will play into that Pegasus weekend, which comes up towards the end of January, and then races beyond, as well as some stakes action, and wrapping up the year down at Gulfstream with horses that, again, we'll watch sooner rather than later on Pegasus Day, but the first half of the year they'll be worth watching for us as well. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention. Nice stakes day also over at Fairgrounds yesterday. We'll take a look at that right after this. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle. The championship season is on at Gulfstream Park. Great horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Come out and enjoy the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys as they compete over the Hallandale Beach Oval all season long. Take your experience up a notch and join us in 10 Palms Restaurant with unbeatable track views, outstanding dining, and convenient wagering options. For reservations, event schedules, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here. Rivers Casino and Resorts Schenectady, where the good times flow.
We'll go back to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. As usual, going over some of the stakes actions. Just wrapped up Gulfstream yesterday and a nice start. I'll talk about this yesterday. Kevin Kilroy from the Fairgrounds. The action started out tenacious in a mile and a 16. And when we talked to Kevin, he had already gotten the scratches. Yes, the touch was up. The 7-5 morning line favorite. That kind of changed things up. I had just a touch on top. I had Not This Boy in the second spot. Stowaway third originally, and Sir Grayland fourth. And I mentioned with Kevin, I thought Sir Grayland's one on the morning line might be interesting. A little bit of value for Kenny McPeak. But I wasn't sure, with this big scratch, what we were going to get as compared to the morning line. Turned out to play pretty much the way I had it lined up after the stretch. The betting public went with the one horse, the Japanese bred, at 3-2. I was a little surprised there. It was 4-1 on the morning line. They liked that one, and right up in the mix early, faded late, and it was the three I was kind of pointing to that wound up getting it done. Not This Boy was pretty much on the front end the whole way, and as I say, the Japanese runner. The number one was right there as they came into the stretch, but the number one will fade. Not This Boy, the number 7 will go on with it. And then the two I thought were interesting underneath. Number 6, Sir Grayland, winds up at 5-2, so that 6-1 price did disappear. But Stowaway, the number 4, who was 12-1 on the morning line, 24-1, completes the trifecta here. Now it was a short field of only 6, so you didn't get huge value necessarily. But Not This Boy does get it done. Jose Ortiz on board. Cowboy Billy Collins. This is a horse that 2 and 3 starts back required triple digits. I looked up before I came in. I did not see buyers yet for those fairground stakes, so I'm going to be intrigued to see what he gets and some other horses on the card as well. We'll get to that later. But Not This Boy was coming out of a third place finish in September at Churchill. That was with a 94 buyer, but the 2 triple digits just before that kind of stood out and lived up to that on the front end. Again, had a little challenge from the favorite through much of the race, top of the stretch, kind of put that one away in the stretch. But then Sir Grayland comes up and gets second by a head over Stowaway. And again, the 9-5, 5-2 over 25-1. The exacta was $20 with a $5.60 horse on top, so that was okay. And the trifecta was actually a couple of bucks. It was just under $100. So again, the 24-1 shot, longest price in the field, Stowaway, ended up adding clearly some value to the mix there. And again, there was a couple of horses that I liked, so there was a chance to get a little value. Actually, there was a chance to get a little value in that. Again, I wasn't as thrilled with the betting public with the horse they made the favorite. So Not This Boy getting away at $5.60 may have been the value there as well. But there is a result in the Tenacious kind of kicking off the stakes action down at the fairgrounds. Moving on to the grass in the Diliberto Memorial. I think it was Marcus Hirsch who wrote the follow-up here and did note that I'd rather be blessed. The horse typically will offer up some value when winning, as evidenced by before yesterday, the last win was in March of last year in the Munoz Memorial at the fairgrounds at 86 to 1. So the betting public can tend to overlook I'd rather be blessed. I get it. I like Gigante in here at 5 to 2. That was the second choice. Capuna wound up to be the favorite. I had that one in the second spot myself. Capuna was the 8 to 5 favorite. Capuna is going to run second as the favorite too. I'd rather be blessed, who gets away from the betting public again at 17 to 1 as the longest price on the board. Chris Hartman trainee. Marcelina Pedrosa was on board. Chart margin is going to wind up to be 3/4 of a length in here. Win number 6 and start number 31. Over $500,000 in the bank prior to this. And you can see the others kind of making a move. I'd rather be blessed, kind of took them gate to wire, and the others make a little move in the stretch. I don't know if you had, I'd rather be blessed, if you had any, if there was any sweat on your brow. Look, pretty much a winner all the way there. Capuna does get up for second. Sandpipes runs third. But a nice win there at a price. And again, it seems like betting public not on board this one when there is a win, at least in the last couple of efforts, last couple of wins for that. And you can understand the price coming out of a 6th place finish, notably behind Poster in the latest effort. So you're going to tuck that in your pocket. One way or the other. And that was off a long layoff, so you can make the case, benefits from that and use. I did not, but there were some things you could have looked at and maybe made a little bit of a case for I'd rather be blessed. So $37.20 on your victory there. Again, it was a nice stakes day down at Fairgrounds and at kicking off our late season 2-year-old action leading into their 3-year-old trail to the Louisiana Derby and the Fairground Oaks, which then lead into Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby. But on the 2-year-old girls side of things, it was the untappable $100,000 up for grabs and mile and 70 yards. I liked Hit Parade. That the question mark here was, they got away with it, but, it's Brad Cox and Gary and Mary West. They debuted on the turf, so that may be a little question mark in and of itself. Maiden Specials at Indiana ran third. Then they came back on the dirt at Churchill, and they ran for a tag, a $50,000 tag, and on their behalf, they got away with it. Horse was not claimed. They won that, and then they went into an allowance at Churchill and won that. So Hit Parade gets it done here by a head. Hit Parade's going to be the number 3 horse. Luis Saez on board. Now, Love Your Neighbor. I had Hit Parade over Love Your Neighbor. And so it was a cold exacta there. Hit Parade did go off as the 2 to 1 favorite. Love Your Neighbor went off at 8 to 1. You can kind of see the jock on the number 1, Love Your Neighbor, kind of leaning, and Marcus Hirsch speculated. The chart says lost stirrup. Marcus Hirsch speculated maybe the stirrup broke, and it's a little more evident in the head-on. Jockey Axel Concepcion is kind of leaning to rely on. You can see his leg, dangling there. So he's leaning to his left a little bit. And so there was a little contact given that whole situation. The stewards took a look but made no change, which is probably right. But again, it was a nice stretch duel. And, note this, if you like Love Your Neighbor, note that you might have a little bit of a trip note here. given the equipment situation, the fact that the chart margin was only ahead. That's it. Nice effort from Hit Parade, fourth career start, gets a stakes victory, now 3 for 4 overall. So that was a nice runner. And again, there were 2 horses I thought were interesting in there. I had them 1-2, and you wound up with a $4 exacta with those 2. Again, in a field of only 7, favored on top, $54 exacta. I thought there was plenty of value there. But Hit Parade, now both of these, I think, are notable on the 2-year-old filly side of things, moving into a 3-year-old season in just a couple of weeks. All right, let's move on now to wrapping up the state section yesterday at the fairgrounds in race number 11. The gun runner for the 2-year-old boys, the untappable for the girls, the gun runner for the boys. A lot of people were against Crown the Buckeye. Crown the Buckeye came in with a couple of big wins and 3 career starts, a couple of stakes wins, but they were against Ohio breds. This is a Mike Maker trainee, but it raced at Belterra, Thistledown, and Mahoning, and it only raced against Ohio breds. Second in the debut, but then 2 pretty convincing victories in Ohio bred stakes races. The numbers were solid. And Kevin Kilroy mentioned, sometimes a little suspect of the numbers coming out of those events. I've said it before. Some of these second-tier tracks, I also a little bit suspect maybe some of the numbers. Sometimes you want to see the horse prove themselves when they move to one of the major circuits before you jump on board. But this one the numbers could have gone back a little bit, and this horse would still be a solid fit in the mix. And it was Mike Maker. So I put Crown the Buckeye on top. And I'll tell you, Crown the Buckeye is the number 5 horse. I was feeling pretty good here. Had the lead and kind of spurts away a little bit. And right about here, I'm thinking, I've got this. And then you will see, right here, I'm thinking, but then you can see, he's getting a little short. And subsequently, Crown the Buckeye will wind up third. It's going to be number 2, Chip Poncho, getting it done. Number 3, Liberty National was the favorite. So you can see the 3 sneaking up the rail. But the 2 is just going to go by, and then the 3 will nip Crown the Buckeye for second. Might have to be 3/4 of a length first to second, ahead between second and third, and neck third and fourth. So they were all kind of there on the wire. For Chip Poncho, first time around 2 turns for the Steve Asmussen trainee. Also, they added blinkers there, so seem to appreciate both of those. On the Buckeye, it's going to be interesting to see, what the career holds for this guy. And again, we mentioned it yesterday with Kevin Kilroy, Ohio bred, but $250,000 for the horse in Ocala back in April. So maybe the horse had shown something at that sale and kind of lived up to it against the Ohio breds, and kind of lived up to it yesterday, running a pretty good third. Unlucky not to hold on for a second. Unlucky not to hold on for the whole thing, but maybe there'll be some distance limitations. We'll find out more about Crown the Buckeye, but we'll watch his career going forward. And if they do decide maybe they'll come back, maybe they'll go a little shorter, maybe back to a mile, those kind of races, the Woody Stevens, or will they give another try to a couple of turns and see what we have. And it may be one of those horses where they just pick their spots, and that one will work out. But I again, getting a little bit ignored, not necessarily by the betting public, however. Crown the Buckeye did go off as the second choice at 2-1. But during the week, I was hearing some handicappers who were kind of taking a shot against him despite the last 2 races. He was 5-1 on the morning line. Again, with the betting public, took a little more action. But being an Ohio bred and having attracted so much money at the auction, I'm intrigued to see what's up going forward. That said, Chip Poncho, certainly worth watching going forward. Steve Asmussen, runner with a couple of, and unfortunately, again, I haven't seen the numbers for this. We put together a couple of lower 80 buyers in the first two starts and 81 in the career debut at Keeneland, running second, then one in the second start with an 82 buyer. And, late in the year, those numbers are pretty good for 2-year-olds. Chip Honcho subsequently wins yesterday to get a stakes victory in start number 3. Liberty National runs second. Kevin Kilroy liked that one yesterday off the nice improvement in start number 2 to break the maiden last time for Ken McPeak. And again, that was a pretty good try there to wind up in the mix in that race. Again, the first 4, all probably worth watching going forward. Also notable on stats and whatnot. Steve Asmussen, that was his third, the winning trainer, winning jockey Paco Lopez, who again, because of restrictions from HISA, Louisiana is not a HISA state. So Paco currently has HISA suspension pending, but it can take effect in Louisiana. So he's been riding down there, having a decent week so far at the fairgrounds, and he gets the victory yesterday for the Asmussen training. But Steve Asmussen, 3rd win in 5 runnings of the gun runner. Gun runner, of course, training. So in all through the circle, but he does very well in the state, obviously, year in and year out. All right, we'll come back. We'll look at the Oaklawn race, and I kind of alluded to it earlier. There were a couple of races on the fairgrounds undercard. A couple of first-time starters I think are worth watching going forward. So take a look at those as well. And then I wanted to pull up the race with post time yesterday from Wall. Can he go out a winner in his last career start? Find out all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
The 2025 Global Symposium on Racing. It's the premier networking event of the year. Connect with the who's who of racing. Collaborate face-to-face with key decision makers. Be a part of the international conversation. Discover the latest technology and innovation. Join us December 8th through 10th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
The championship season is on at Gulfstream Park. Horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Come out and enjoy the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys as they compete over the Hallandale Beach Oval all season long. Take your experience up a notch and join us in Pitcom Restaurant with unbeatable track views, outstanding dining, and convenient wagering options. Reservations, event schedules, tickets, and more at the Gulfstream Park.com.
And as you saw, I will remind you once again, Quiet Week as far as promotions this weekend leading into the holiday, but right after the holiday, as you saw right there, there's a lot of dough up for grabs in the bounty bet coming up on Friday. If you've never played before, very easy. It's going to be a late pick 5 at Aqueduct back in action at the end of the week. You play the late pick 5 on Friday, play it with your capital OTB bet account, and you're in. You're in for a shot at that money. If you hit the pick 5 and other people hit it, you still have a little consolation there. But if you're the lone person to hit the pick 5, hey, you get the pick 5 money. It's change, as they say. Then you get the $2,600. So a lot up for grabs for the bounty bet next Friday. All right. As noted before the break, Rattle and Roll yesterday in the stake at Oaklawn, the Tinsel. 3-year-olds and up going 9 furlongs. I like Rattle and Roll, the Kenny McPeak runner, throughout his career. And it's been a nice career. Going into yesterday, 29 starts, 10 wins, $3.5 million in the bank. Unfortunately, I kind of zig when he zags. I've had some of the victories, but I missed some. Yesterday, I didn't jump on board. Went off at 3-5. It was a scratch reduced field of 5, and he kind of just outclassed this bunch. Rattle and Roll, Ken McPeak, Joel Rosario will get it done and get it done fairly easily. The number 7 horse in here is Rattle and Roll. We ran in the Saudi Cup last February, ran fifth, but went over in January and won a rich prep for it. The race, it seemed like there was some talk also of maybe returning to Saudi Arabia, the ownership group, I think, is involved. So wouldn't be surprised, but you can see this is a pretty easy victory. The chart margin winds up to be a couple. Joe Rosario just seemed to be not persevering too much because it was clearly going to be an easy one. Willie D's ran second, that man third. Willie D's was a close-up second choice at 9-5 in the field. Coming off a 7th place finish in the Lucas Classic, it was probably better than that. So Trendy took a little bit of money, but 3-5, the money clearly went to Rattle and Roll, $3.40. And with the two short prices in the 5-horse field getting it done, $6 on the exacta. So a whole lot to be had there, other than to enjoy the effort from Rattle and Roll, knocking his money earnings over $3.6 million. It's just incredible. On the verge of becoming a 7-year-old, 6-year-old. Within a couple of weeks will be 7. But now 11 wins and 30 starts. And wins over 30 starts and marching towards perhaps $4 million for Rattle and Roll. All right. Wanted to take a look again at a couple of races yesterday, and I tweeted it out after. They were back to back. A couple of Cherie DeVoe runners. Yesterday was loaded with maiden specials at Fairgrounds on the undercard, and most of them were nice races and nice performance. Oh, I did not call up the replay of the Rachel. Speaking of nice breeding, the Rachel Alexandra sibling yesterday, making a full sibling at Gulfstream, ran a pretty good second. Talk about that one with Mike Welch. Was hung way outside. Wound up getting upset by a Chad Brown runner who just came late because it was a nice effort. Had a good ride from the outside post position, got over to the rail, and led them all the way around. Top of the stretch looked pretty good, but the Chad Brown runner, as they typically do, made a nice late run and just got up. But it was a good debut from the full sibling for Rachel Alexandra. Epic Dioro, trained by Todd Fletcher. The winner in the race was Boss Henry, again, the Chad Brown runner. And again, nice day. It's tough to debut going 2 turns. Tough to negotiate from the outside on the turf course with tight turns from an outside post, but did it all very well. So keep your eyes on that Dioro and see how long it takes the Rachel Alexander sibling to break through. But that was a nice maiden special at Gulfstream. As I say, they had some really nice maiden specials at Fairgrounds. And we're going to take a look at 2 of these that clearly will be horses to watch. Cherie DeVoe, first-time starter in race number 3 yesterday, going 6 furlongs, owned in part by the Phipps stable. I said yesterday, I don't know, I may have missed it, but I don't know if I've seen a lot of Phipps runners in the barn of Cherie DeVoe. But this one was interesting. Some good workouts underneath. And take a look at the chiclet on the 3. Look how far back the 3 is. And you can see that one on the far outside now in the back of the pack. The 3 is Golden Tempo. Phipps and Company in St. Alois, Cherie DeVoe, Jose Ortiz on board. And even here, the horse has a lot of work to do. But keeps coming, keeps coming, keeps coming. Fancy Fairlane is the horse on the lead. It's a little short there. Doesn't get short. Golden Tempo. That one. The dam Rumba won the 2016 Top Flight. I did note when I handicapped the race yesterday that there was a lone sibling to Golden Tempo. Plate Pulse was 0 for 3 so far. So maybe a little bit of mixed messages. But as noted, there are a couple of workouts that kind of touted this was potentially live. But again, if you saw that 3 chiclet as they turned into the stretch, the back of the pack, and in a 6 furlong race to make up that kind of ground, 110.66. And again, I have yet to see buyer numbers for the races at the fairgrounds yesterday, but that was a nice performance. Golden Tempo going to be clearly one to keep our eyes on the move into the 3-year-old season. Cherie DeVoe runner in the 3rd race at the fairgrounds yesterday. And then, as I say, I tweeted out after the 4th race as well because Cherie DeVoe went back-to-back. White Smoke, a little bit of buzz on that one and did go off as the 8-5 favorite. And again, look for the 6 chiclet because White Smoke, the gates, they're off, you lose. You can see the 6 chiclet back there in the the 2nd tier. White Smoke is the 6. It's skipped out here, and under Jose Ortiz once again runs them down, but came out of the gate very slowly. So as I say, they're off, you lose when the gates open. John Dooley commented, "Oh, slow start from White Smoke," but again, 6 furlongs to be in that position and do that. Now, Fairgrounds maybe helps these horses out with a nice long stretch. You have to have the horse to make that happen. Trevor Marchant winds up to be a length there. Again, there's a little buzz, so that one puts in action at $5.20. Whereas back-to-back first-time starters, the dam there, I had White Smoke on top. As I said, there was a little bit of buzz. The dam herself was unraced. But there was a sibling you might remember called Promise Keeper. 4th in debut, but won the 2nd start, won the 4th and the 5th starts. The 5th start of the career was the 2021 Peter Pan. So there was a little bit of breeding for White Smoke. But boy, those were, again, 2 very, very nice debut efforts on the fairgrounds yesterday from 2-year-olds on the male side and on the female side. Golden Tempo and White Smoke. Let's keep our eyes open for those 2 going forward. Again, as the calendar changes and they become 3-year-olds. And I said I did want to show the result from the Manfuso yesterday at Laurel, 1 of 4 stakes on the card because it was another showdown between Post Time and Barbadian Runner. Post Time, a really nice Brittany Russell, Maryland bred. She's based in Maryland, so much of the career was in Maryland for Post Time. But he had also bounced out and done very well in Open Company. 2024 ran 2nd in the Breeders' Cup, 3rd mile, but had bounced up and won at Saratoga, 3rd in the Cigar Mile last year as well. Won the Deputed Testimony at Laurel in June this year as part of a 10-race win streak at Laurel. That was snapped in the previous start, Maryland Millions Classic. His 10-race Laurel win streak wound up coming up a little bit short in the Maryland Millions Classic, where he ran 2nd to Barbadian Runner. Barbadian Runner subsequently won the Mickey Small at the end of November at Laurel. So Post Time was coming back after the Maryland Millions. Barbadian Runner was coming back after a more subsequent win. They were facing off again tomorrow. Post Time announced as being retired going into stud next year, and the connections, including trainer Brittany Russell, made it clear that they wanted him to go out on a high note. And so, given what had happened in the Maryland Millions, it was very interesting. And given the form Barbadian Runner is in, I kind of tilted in that direction. We looked at this race yesterday. But it winds up to be the happy story pretty easily, too. The betting public tilted towards Post Time at 1-2. Post Time is the 4-horse. Barbadian Runner is the 2-horse. Post Time manages to get it done and get it done subsequently pretty easily. You can see him running down the leader here, Barbadian Runner. So they show down again in the stretch, from post time says, nope, not this time, buddy. Pulls away length and a quarter. Armenian runner 15 lengths ahead of the third place finisher. So they clearly outclassed the field. But as I understand it from um, the post race articles that I read, not a dry eye in the house. It was Brittany Russell. Her husband Sheldon Russell has been on board for most of the career for post time. Leaves the racetrack with 13 wins and 23 starts, over $1.5 million. Will be notable on the Maryland side as a stud going forward, you would have to think. But this clearly Maryland bred horse of the year last year, and I would probably set for similar this year as well. But goes out on that high note with an incredible Laurel record of 11 wins and a second in 12 starts on the Laurel surface. But they are eligible, or they do manage to go out as a winner there at Laurel to wrap up the career of the very, very talented post time. Oh, and here is, thank you, Dino in the control room pulled it up. That is the sibling to Rachel Alexandra on the front end. And you can see I was pretty confident. I had the horse on top and escaped at a price of 8-1 with those connections, Fletcher and the breeding, and Chaz. It's not at wire. Great effort. It was a great effort. Thanks, Dino. Really, again, the Chad Brown runner just gets the momentum going to the stretch. But escaping 8-1. I think a lot of that, well, we talked to Mike Welch yesterday, and he said, and I had some of the same concerns, but I took my shot with that one on top, given the breeding and Fletcher. But the post position concerned me. And also, if you have a sibling to Rachel Alexandra, why are you starting on the turf? So if there were those concerns, clearly the betting public had those concerns and offered up a little bit of a price. And again, about mid-stretch, I thought the prices were working nicely. Just did not hold up on the late run from the Chad Brown. Epic Dioro, full sibling to Rachel Alexandra. Let's see what that one is next. Also wanted to mention let's see if there is more. A little bit more. I have it here. I don't know what that is. I was going to mention the Remington Mile. It was last night at Remington Park, and I had the chart originally. I'm not sure what I did with it. It was notable because, and I'm trying to remember now who actually won because it was an upset. But it was notable also because Arctic Beast, we were out at the Finger Lakes for the New York Breeders' Futurity. Arctic Beast ran the record that day to 3 for 3. Couple of stakes wins at Finger Lakes, went out and tried the Springboard Mile. That one ran second yesterday. I'm not remember who actually the winner was in there. Again, I did that chart earlier. I don't know what I did with it. But again, it was an upset in the race. But Arctic Beast, the notable to me was that Arctic Beast ran a nice second. So I always say you have a nice New York bred, you have all kinds of options, and that is clearly going to be the case with Arctic Beast. We can kind of, here we go. There is my chart. It did win, I thought, it wound up to be Express Kid in there at 34-1, winds up with the upset. And these kind of races, I would say, at least underneath, you have to look kind of for the hometown hero. And Express Kid was based at Remington. I didn't pull up the replay for this. We went up at almost midnight yesterday. Went up at 11:30 last night. It was 10:30 running time. The Express Kid had won the race on the turf at Remington previous start. The dirt race just before that wasn't quite as much. Hence the big price. But as I said, sometimes I think in these races, underneath, you get a price, maybe play around with uh, one of the local heroes, and that's the way it worked out yesterday with Express Kid coming off a win at Remington, albeit on the turf. It's $71. But again, clear winner, over 6 lengths of the chart margin. A clear second was Arctic Beast. So it'd be interesting to watch that soon-to-be 3-year-old New York bred going forward from Maker. They took their shot, they ran second, and wound up with 60,000 for a second for Arctic Beast. So solid performance there from the New York bred, stepping out into open company for the first time and running well. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for this edition of Racing Across America. Do note, I had some news here, and we'll see how it plays out. Keep your ears to the Racing Farmer Blood Horse as the day progresses. Typically, the day after Christmas, big day out in Southern California, Boxing Day, and a big day of stakes action as the opening day at Santa Anita. But they're expecting some rain out there, extended rain. So they were going to draw entries, a couple of days ago. Yes, a couple of days ago. But they have now moved the drawing the entries from today, watching the weather. The article I read did not kind of note what that would mean exactly, whether they will potentially move some stakes races or move the card. But as I say, keep your ear to the ground because it's always a big day, a fun day of racing. And with the weather, they may juggle things up. I would expect to hear more about that again as they anticipate running the card today. So I would expect to hear more about opening day and how that all may shake out in Southern California weather later today. And if it comes out during the day, I'll announce it on OTB Live as well. But I know a lot of people, myself included, that opening day at Gulfstream. So let's watch and see how it all pans out. As they say, maybe they move the stakes, maybe they move the whole card, or maybe things stay intact depending on how they decide to move it. All right, let me just update you one more time before we step out. Again, it's a nice day at Turfway today. It's the Turfway Synthetic Championships. You'll see some high-quality runners there as opposed to a nighttime post. They will kick things off at 3 o'clock this afternoon for that. So Turfway typically offering plenty of value, so you can check that out this afternoon. Also this afternoon, Gulfstream Park, a mandatory in the Rainbow. That always attracts a lot of attention. 20-cent increment, you put in a nice little ticket for a reasonable amount of money. So keep that in mind. We'll look at Gulfstream this afternoon on OTB Live. And again, you can pull up the one sheet anytime and get ideas on all of those races. The website, capitalotv.com. Click on the handicapping link at the top and handicapper support. Find the one sheet. I've looked at Gulfstream. Brian had always looked at Gulfstream. So do that. And again, a reminder on the promos coming up next week, Friday. Big money up for grabs. Bounty bet. It's going to be the late pick 5 at Aqueduct. Play it with the Capital TV bet account, and you're in for a shot at over $600. So keep that in mind. Next Friday, next Saturday, $900 up for grabs in the King of the Hill contest. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, I can't play, but I filled out an entry form and tweeted it out just as an exercise a couple of weeks ago. I would have won the $700 a couple of weeks ago. It's a fun contest, very doable, very havable. First few races, a couple of races, the horse has to finish in the top 4, and a couple of races top 3, and then the top 2, and the last race in the sequence, you have to have the winner. But it is very doable, and that's going to be next Saturday. You get a chance to walk away with $900 right there at the Clubhouse Racebook. There's also going to be the holiday grab bag giveaway right there at the Racebook as well. 7-Eleven Central Avenue. You're invited today as well. No promotions to speak of today, but you can come down and watch the football. There probably is the football square stuff today, so you can watch all the football action and enjoy that in Black Bear. Grab a little lunch as well, and of course, as well. Clubhouse Racebook, 11 Central Avenue. All right, Seth, now wrapping it up for Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. We will be back probably about an hour and a half or so, a little less than that, to kick things off for a Sunday afternoon OTV Live. The week has been going pretty well. We called the one sheet yesterday at Oakland, Fairgrounds. We had the nice 36-38 winner on top over the favorite, Cold exacted there of $170 maybe in the middle of the afternoon. That made things kind of nice, but there were some other ideas out there that maybe you could have, hopefully plugged into your mix. So if you can do it all again this afternoon, again, I'll be looking at some Gulfstream and some Oakland today, one of my favorite tracks. See if we can find some value at those venues as well. All that, again, probably a little over an hour. Kicking off OTV Live for Sunday afternoon. So, see you then. We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTV. Gulfstream Park's championship meet features great racing now through Florida Derby weekend at the end of March.
Watching OTV TV, service of Capital Off Track Bet.